everyone. Welcome back to My Crummy World, a slice of mom life. I am Shannon Addison, your host, and these, of course, are the breadcrumbs, including Penelope Pumpernickel, Samantha Sourdough, Whitney Wheat, Rachel Rye, PJ, Penelope's little sister, and her doggy Pepper. If you saw our last episode, then you saw that Rachel Rye helped us with a little bit of math that's involved with baking and some fun that we can have teaching math to our kids while we're in the kitchen. We also learned how to make salt dough with our good friend Sky and had a lot of fun doing that. And we discussed connection in the kitchen and why it's important and how we can use the time that we spend together to connect with our kids. Well, in this episode, because it's back to school season, we're going to be talking about new beginnings, courage, and even baking pumpernickel bread together with some help from our friend Penelope Pumpernickel. So I hope you will stick around for the episode and learn how to bake some pumpernickel bread and maybe, again, spend some quality time together in the kitchen. We're so glad you're here. Pull up a seat and join us, and let's start a slice of mom life. Hi, and welcome into My Crummy Kitchen. This is My Crummy World, but we are in the kitchen today with all of the breadcrumbs, and we're going to jump into this book, specifically Pumpernickel Bread. But before we do, I just want to take a minute and talk about how wonderful it is to spend time in the kitchen together, doing something where you can learn together and enjoy the process of baking and also connect, because the kitchen is the greatest place to really establish these kinds of connections with our kids. So if you're watching this, I hope that you will come back and use this as a guide with your kids so that we can learn about pumpernickel bread together. We can learn about the breadcrumbs and our mission, and we can teach them about different kinds of breads and the baking process. So thank you for welcoming us into your kitchen, and you are always welcome into ours. Let's get started. So why is this episode about courage? Well, courage is definitely the ingredient that is needed as kids go back to school, not just for kids, but also for parents. Are your kids nervous about starting school? Have you asked them how they feel about it? And remember, when having conversations with our kids, don't ask them questions like, "Are you excited to start school?" Ask them open-ended questions like, "What is the one thing you are most excited about as you start this new school year? And what is one thing that perhaps troubles you about starting school this year?" Those kinds of questions are going to get you to the answers that you're looking for. And again, we want to try to build greater connection with our kids as they start their school year so that we can be aware of any problems that they might encounter or any issues as they come up. If you follow My Crummy World and the breadcrumbs, then you know that Penelope is the character who exhibits courage. All of my characters have character traits that they exhibit and that we talk about at length. Penelope's is courage. Rachel's is cooperation. Samantha's is confidence. Whitney's is compassion. And of course, PJ is curiosity. But for this episode, we are going to be talking about courage, why it's important, and how to teach this to your kids. So follow along with us today in our episode. We will talk about courage throughout, and we will use every opportunity to demonstrate how you can build up more courage in your kids and have conversations about it as well. From Penelope and from me, we're happy you're here and that you have the courage to follow along. And now, pull up a chair with your little ones for a story. This story is entitled Crumbz of Courage. Penelope Pumpernickel meets Tiffany Toast. We hope you enjoy it. In the bustling little town of Bakersville, the smell of fresh bread floated through the air and the chatter of kids filled the halls of Bakersville Elementary. Penelope Pumpernickel skipped toward the lunchroom with her polka dot lunchbox swinging in her hand. It was the first Monday of a brand new school year, and Penelope had already spotted her friends Rachel Rye, Samantha Sourdough, and Whitney Wheat waving from their usual table. But then she noticed something different. Sitting in the very last seat by the window was a girl Penelope had never seen before. She sat quietly, her eyes focused on the cover of her notebook and her hands twisting the straw of her juice box. Penelope tilted her head. This girl must be new. She looked like she didn't know anyone yet, and Penelope remembered how that felt. Her tummy did a little flip-flop because walking up to someone new could be scary, even for seasoned bred like her. Penelope thought to herself, what if she doesn't want to talk? What if I say something silly? What if she thinks I'm weird? But then Penelope remembered what her crummy friends always said. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing something kind, even when you are. So Penelope took a deep breath, marched right over, and gave her warmest, crustiest smile. Hi, I'm Penelope Pumpernickel, she said. I like reading and baking, playing tag at recess, and telling the world's silliest jokes. What's your name? The new girl smiled shyly and said, I'm Tiffany Toast. My family just moved here from Butterville. Penelope's eyes lit up. Tiffany Toast! That's a delicious name. How would you like to sit with me and my friends at lunch today? Tiffany's smile grew bigger. Sure, I would love that. And just like that, one tiny moment of courage turned into the beginning of a brand new friendship. Sometimes courage is climbing a mountain, and sometimes it's just saying hello. And when you do, you might find that the person you're saying hello to is exactly the friend that you were looking for all along. And see, this is Penelope Pumpernickel, and this is Tiffany Toast. And that is our story, Crumbz of Courage.
Hey there, Crumb Crew! It's me, Penelope Pumpernickel. Did you like my story about meeting Tiffany Toast? You know, I was a little nervous at first. My stomach was doing flips, kind of like pancakes in a frying pan. But here's the thing. Being nervous doesn't mean you can't be brave. Courage is just doing the right thing, even when your knees feel a little wobbly. This week, I've got a Crummy Courage Challenge just for you. Are you ready? Here it is. This week, try saying hi to someone new. It could be a classmate, a neighbor, or even a kid on the playground that you've never talked to. You could ask them to play, share a joke, or just smile and say, hey, how's your day going? Because guess what? A little bit of courage can start a friendship that lasts way longer than a loaf of bread. Yummy! And if you try this challenge, tell me about it. Draw a picture, write a note, or have your grown-up send your story to my crummy world. I might even share it on a future show.
Woohoo!
Okay, bakers of bravery, go spread some crummy courage this week. You've got this. Bye for now. Some people believe that the word pumpernickel comes from a combination of German words that suggest, well, feeling a little gassy, and a devilish figure. Pumper in German means well, you know. And nickel means a devilish figure or a goblin. Seems kind of crazy to me. But there it is.
Thanks for that, Penelope. Now let's continue on with a little bit more breaducation before we start baking. Specifically, let's talk about pumpernickel bread. What gives it its very distinct color and what gives it its very distinct flavor. When I travel around and work at schools with kids, exposing them to different kinds of breads, I'm always amazed at how few have ever heard of or tasted pumpernickel bread. And that's a shame because they're missing out on a very, very tasty kind of bread that's also quite good for you. But they will ask, how does it get its color? How does it get its flavor? Historically, that was due to a very long baking process. But today, there are different reasons that pumpernickel bread has the coloring and the flavoring that it does. Now, traditionally, it has always had a very large rye content in the dough, which is why it is so closely related and considered a rye bread. And yes, anyone who follows the breadcrumbs know that Penelope Pumpernickel and Rachel Rye are pretty tight. And that is because they are very similar. Something that I love to talk about with kids that's in the book is the fact that even though we may look different on the outside, we are all made from the same basic ingredients. There's a great lesson in there for kids, one that should not be missed when you're spending time together in the kitchen. Now back to pumpernickel bread. So how do we get around the long, slow baking process to achieve the results of traditional pumpernickel bread? We do that through using things like cocoa powder or good old molasses, maybe some honey, maybe some coffee. That's what helps give it its very rich color, and in many cases also the very unique and rich flavor that it has. And some kids notice that it has a slightly sweet taste, which again depends on the recipe that you use. For the one that we will use today actually has a little bit of honey, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cocoa powder, and a whole lot of love. So let's get started. Let's dive into our recipe for quick pumpernick. Starting off with what we're going to need: a large mixing bowl. This is our breadcrumbs we mix well mixing bowl. And of course, the color-coded coordinating measuring cups and spoons with the breadcrumbs characters. You also will need some whole wheat flour, bread flour, and yes, this is organic rye flour, but we're not going to use it for this recipe. Okay, let's talk about flour. I know what you're thinking. I just discussed the high rye content in pumpernickel bread dough. And then when you go into the recipe in my book, you see that the flours that I use for this particular recipe is a combination of either bread flour and all-purpose flour and wheat flour. No rye flour. Why is that? Because rye flour is very hard to find. I actually ordered this online so that I would have it available, but I don't want to limit people who are using the recipe in the book to having to use rye flour when you can achieve similar results using all-purpose flour or bread flour and wheat flour. And again, we'll be adding some additional ingredients to help give our pumpernickel bread its very unique taste. So don't worry, we'll get there. Okay, and now getting back to our recipe. In addition to the flour, you're going to need to have some yeast on hand. We're going to be using the instant yeast for this particular recipe. You'll also need to have some cinnamon. We're going to be using some cocoa powder, some fine sea salt, as well as some granulated sugar. Honey will be used, and vegetable oil. Okay, one more quick note, and then I promise we're going to start baking, and that is on dough enhancers. So what is a dough enhancer? A dough enhancer is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that you add to your recipe that enhances the dough. It optimizes your results. And for someone who is a beginner, like me, baking pumpernickel bread, which is a very dense bread, a dough enhancer might help yield a little bit lighter bread and help you achieve success in your first attempt at baking a pumpernickel bread. So we give you the option of using a dough enhancer, and for this recipe we're using a dry milk powder. There are all kinds of others available and you can always look them up online, but I just want to give you a heads up that yes, we will be using a little bit of dry milk powder to help yield good results with our pumpernickel bread. So let's get baking. All right, so we're going to start by greasing our pans and combining all of our dry ingredients. Because we are adding a dough enhancer, we are actually increasing our dry ingredients, and we need to make sure that we bump up our wet ingredients to accommodate that. So as a result, we will be adding an additional 1/4 cup of warm water to make sure that our dough does not come out too dry. Next, we combine the wet ingredients. We're starting with a full cup of warm water. Again, we're adding an additional 1/4 cup of water because of the dry milk powder. We also add a 1/4 cup of honey, and yes, I will use a spatula to make sure I get all of the honey out of my 1/4 cup. And last but not least, we're going to add a tablespoon of vegetable oil to our wet mixture. Once we add the vegetable oil, we will combine all of the wet ingredients, and then we will add it to our dry mixture. Now we will combine our wet and dry mixture. We will begin by using a spatula just to get it somewhat combined, but you will see that I will very quickly move towards using just my hands so that I can get all of the flour and the dry mixture mixed in well with the wet mixture. And again, you want to make sure you get all of the moisture out of the wet bowl, because we want to be sure that we have enough of the wet mixture to incorporate into our flour. And we'll begin to mix it up in the bowl. And once we get it to the point where it's combined reasonably well, we'll start kneading our dough. There are 3 basic steps to kneading dough, and that is push, turn, and fold. And you will see, you press, you turn, you fold. You push or press, turn, and fold. You will want to knead the dough until it becomes smooth and it is no longer sticky. This will vary. It could be as much as 8 minutes, or it could be in just a couple of minutes. And again, you can do this by hand, or if you have a stand mixer, you could use a dough hook. But then you would miss out on all the fun of kneading the dough. You need to get your mixing bowl, make sure it's clean, put a little bit of vegetable oil in the bottom, and take your kneaded dough and place it inside your mixing bowl. It is ready for its first rise. You'll want to cover it with a damp kitchen towel and find a nice warm place where it will now sit for anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half and rise. Allow your dough to rise until it has doubled in size. This step is called proofing. And again, it should take about 60 to 90 minutes. After it's done rising, you will need to punch down your dough. You use your fist to actually punch the dough. So why do we punch or fold our bread dough? The goal is to degas it. This means you're getting rid of the pockets of gas that are trapped in the dough. It also wakes up the yeast cells so they'll continue to ferment and help the dough rise again. So once I've punched my dough, I'm going to do a little bit more kneading, and ultimately I'm going to shape it so that it's ready to go into my greased loaf pan that I have set aside. Now we're going to do a second rise, and then she'll be ready to bake. This is after a second rise of about 45 minutes, and now it's ready to go in the oven. I scored just a little for looks and baked at 375 degrees for 40 minutes. And look at this beautiful pumpernickel bread. We hope you enjoyed it. Okay, guess what this is? This is fresh, warm pumpernickel bread with butter, and let me tell you, it is absolutely delicious. So good. We hope that you have learned not only how to bake some pumpernickel bread, but that you have spent time in the kitchen with your little ones, exposing them to something new, something that is so yummy that they may have never heard of and never tasted before. These are the kinds of adventures that we want to continue exploring with you and with your little ones here in My Crummy World. Before we wrap up today's episode of A Slice of Mom Life, Penelope wanted to share a quick activity that you can do with your kids. Here is an activity that you can do with your kids entitled the Crummy Courage Quest. This is a game using cards with real-life situations that they might face every day to help them use courage. For example, if they were to draw a Rachel Rye show and share card, it encourages them to raise their hand in class and share an idea. If they draw the Penelope Pumpernickel's lunchroom leap card, it challenges them to sit next to someone new at lunch. If they were to draw the Samantha Sourdough's feature food or fun folly, it suggests they try a new food or activity that they've never done before. And Whitney Wheat's teamwork try tells them that they should join in a game or group where they don't know everyone. The idea of this game is to help them step out of their comfort zone and start using courage every day in their activities and in their lives. Courage in action is what it's all about. Isn't that right, Penelope? But teaching courage to kids is not easy. That's why we hope that this kind of activity will provide you with some ideas as to how you can incorporate small acts of courage into your kids' lives every day, whether that be at school or in their clubs, on their sports teams, or even at home. Just small suggestions of little things they can do with their friends, with you, that will teach them how to embrace their own courageous selves. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of My Crummy World's A Slice of Mom Life. If you would like any of the recipes, the activities, the downloadable cards, you can reach out to us through our website or through my email right here. Until next time, Penelope and I want to say thank you so much for watching. We hope you continue to follow My Crummy World and the breadcrumbs. And for today, I just want to say the kitchen is now officially closed. Bye, everyone.